Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Get ready for another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, and this is a great one. Before I get to the episode, though, I just want to remind you that subscribing to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts is something that really helps all podcasters and would really help me personally. Those are the numbers that we watch, and those are ones that help us grow. It also ensures that you get the delivery on Monday and Thursday when our new episodes come out. That's it. That's my only ask. This week, we have Soli Cayetano. She is the brains behind Lattes and Leases on Instagram. She's been documenting her journey since the pandemic. She's up to 49 units at 26 years old. We're going to talk all about wealth building through out-of-state investing. This is a great show. Buckle up and let's go. This is episode 122 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Soli Cayetano. Soli is an out-of-state real estate investor who is up to 49 units at 26 years old. She quit her 9-to-5 at 23, was a millionaire by 25. She has so much more going on. We're going to talk all about it. Soli, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I was telling you earlier that I remember when you first got started, and your journey has just been really interesting and I think really inspiring to younger people and people who just got into investing later. How important has it been for you to share your journey with others and then let other people see that it's possible?
Yeah, I think without sharing my journey, I would not be anywhere close to where I am today. And so I started my Instagram way back before I even had a first rental property. And I was just kind of documenting, submitting offers, freaking out, flying out to my first property when I closed on it, and really asking, more so like asking for people for advice from people who were much further ahead of me. And so through sharing my journey, I kind of found a new crowd. When I first started, I was in college. And as you know, people in college are not really focused on investing in real estate. But as I found my crowd on Instagram, I completely changed my mindset about what was important to me. I changed my friend group. They were all investors. I changed my value set, what I wanted to do with my life. And without doing that and without finding people on social media, I don't think I would be here today.
Yeah. And how hard was it, though, to detach from, like, I think this happens at all ages. You have a certain friend set or group who want to stay at this level, but there was something in you that wanted to go to a much higher level. Was it hard for you at that age, young, still being in college, to say, like, listen, I don't want to do that. I want to do this stuff?
Lucky for me was the pandemic, I guess, blessing and a curse. And so it didn't matter if I wanted to detach from my friends or not. We all kind of detached, and a lot of my friends actually ended up moving home. Yeah. My parents were divorced and I didn't really have anywhere to stay. So I ended up staying on campus still, and I didn't really have anyone to hang out with. And so it was a really harsh and abrupt end to those friendships. I mean, I still talk to some of them today, but it allowed me almost a fresh start, for better or for worse, to develop a new friend group, while the circumstances just kind of split off my other relationships pretty cleanly.
Yeah. It seems like the timing was right, though, because you had started trying to figure it out, and then it gave you all of this extra time where you couldn't leave anyway to really do the deep dive. What were the things that you got into first? Was it finding bigger pockets or finding people on social media that then led you to things like bigger pockets?
Yeah, so I was as part of my college real estate association, and there's a couple people who talked about investing in real estate, and I kind of heard that they did it and thought they were a little crazy. I was like, what do you mean you buy properties in Florida or Ohio and you don't ever see them? Like, to me, that sounds a little wacko. But like at least I heard that they did it, and they were pretty good friends. And so I knew it was possible. And so then after that, I started listening a little bit to Bigger Pockets, going to a couple of real estate meetups locally. But it wasn't until the pandemic where I actually slowed down and had some time to think. Everything else died out. I was working full time and going to college full time. And so I just never really had any time to learn a new skill, to put myself out there until like the pandemic really shut down everything. And then it was a blessing to be able to really deep dive into real estate investing education. First was Bigger Pockets. Then it was like, wow, this is so cool. I'm going to start my Instagram and start to document it. Then it was meeting more people. Then I joined like this free mastermind where we met every week and had homework items. And I made a bunch of friends that way. And from there, I just determined that I was going to take action. I honestly didn't even give myself time to get stuck in analysis paralysis. I didn't know what. I think I was also blessed to not know a lot of stuff, and I didn't know that people analyzed 20 different markets before they chose one. I just chose one.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I didn't know that people like submitted 20 offers. I got my second one submitted, and I really did not know what I didn't know. But because of that, I learned by doing instead of being scared for 6 months before I did anything.
Yeah, well, there must have been something in you to be at that age and to just be able to take action. What do you think it was? Was it the want to get to a different level, or was it something about what you were learning about real estate that enabled you to, like you said, maybe there was a lot of stuff you didn't know, but you were still taking action with a less knowledge maybe than others?
I think partially it was the people I surrounded myself with. And so if your community tells you that it's good to take action, it's good to take risks, it's good to make mistakes because it makes you a better investor, like that's a completely different narrative than what other people might hear from their friends and family who are like, it's good to go party. It's good to save. It's probably not good to risk your money. And because I was so severed from everything else in the world besides the voices that I knew that were telling me that you're doing the right thing by taking action, making mistakes, it's almost like I just got into this whole different world, and I didn't have any of the other voices around me that were seeding doubts in me that it wasn't possible.
Yeah, but since it was social media and you were getting started on social media, was there any blowback on social media? Because for any young females in general, social media is a garbage den in the comments. Did you, I'm sure over time it's averaged out and it's still there, but was it harder in the beginning when you're new investor? And like you said, you're putting it out there. Look, I don't know anything yet, but you're really trying to grow. Was that any part of the struggle, or did you understand that that's just an unfortunate part of social media?
Honestly, I did not really get much hate at all. I think
awesome.
that people are very supportive of people who do things. Like people don't like when people are maybe really flashy. They don't like when people say that they're going to do something, but they don't do anything. And they're just kind of like talking about doing something forever. I think one of the beauties of starting without anything is I came in from like a really humble perspective with no ego. Like I was just there to learn. And I think that people saw me grow, and through watching me grow, they actually started to take me seriously. And so there wasn't any, like, I didn't find one person in my community who told me that, like, you don't know anything, stop trying.
Yeah.
It was only encouraging. There are people, when your videos go viral, who say, like, landlords are the bane of society, like, go to the trash type of thing.
Yeah.
But then you know that your video has gone viral, and that doesn't really matter because they're not your people anyways. And so in all things, like, honestly, I haven't found people to be demeaning in any way. I've never seen being a woman to be a disadvantage in any way. If anything, I think it's actually an advantage because there just aren't as many of us.
Yeah.
There aren't as many young people and female people and minority people who are represented in real estate education. And so it's an opportunity to really stand out in the crowd.
Yeah, those are really good points, because I think if you build from a spot of giving value on social or in whatever you're doing, you're just not going to attract to garbage. They're just not going to get, it's like, negative people don't find their way into like positive TikTok because that's not what fuels them. They like negative stuff. So if you created it that way and then you kept building, especially the way you were doing it, I think it's, I've talked to a lot of newer investors who've done well on social and started on social, and it's the same thing for them. It's like they weren't trying to be something that they weren't. And that's exactly what you did, right? You're taking people along with the journey. And now people can go back and take that journey and realize like, wait, it's only been three years. That gives a lot of hope to everybody, but also specifically, like you said, young minority females. You're 20, 18 in college. It can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that like what I like to do is I didn't want to preach lessons that, I was a new investor. So at 6 months, like I couldn't really tell you how to become a successful financially free investor. Like I didn't know. But what I could tell you was my own experience. And that's kind of how I approached it was I put in this offer. It didn't work out. Here's what I learned. If it relates to you, great. If it doesn't relate to you, no one can tell me it's wrong because it's my own experience. And that's kind of how I think I got over maybe any of like that imposter syndrome, people who might come in and are new and feel like they don't have anything to teach yet. You can always teach your own experience, and no one can ever tell you it's wrong because it's how you have experienced your life.
Yeah, and I think you've experienced something that a lot of outsiders who are not in the investing industry have found, that it's an extremely positive, uplifting society. It's very small. It's much smaller than people think. But once you kind of get into that club of all the people who are really doing stuff, everybody wants to help everybody. Have you had that general feeling over these last 3-4 years?
I think people want to help people who are actually serious about doing something. It's real estate investing is tough. It's like it takes grit, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes action, it takes education, it takes failing. And so there are a lot of people who I think that they want to be a real estate investor, but when it comes down to actually like submitting offers every day, or like maybe you fail on a project and you have to get back up, they don't really want it that bad. I think that me, any other people who are really successful, if they see that you're doing the work and you're showing up, like we want to help you. But the reality is only 1% of the people who say they want to do it actually really want to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think people look at investing as another income stream, but they don't realize how hard it is. And then over time, you realize like, wait, landlording's not easy. It's very annoying. I have to put things into place and understand how to be a good landlord to make it successful. It just doesn't rain from the sky with money. How did you get to your first property? Because you were still young at the time. Tell us how you got to your first property, what it was, and how you financed it. Because I think that's kind of the thing that everybody is wringing their hands over. How am I going to do it? How do I get in the door? And then once you get in the door, things will open up.
Yeah, so I settled on Cincinnati, Ohio, because I had gone for work. Again, I was like working full time and going to college. I was a commercial real estate broker. So I basically like leased and sold office space around the country. And I went to Cincinnati to help a client, and I was really impressed with the quality of life, the food, the people, the activities, the real estate. And then I saw that it was like $100,000 of real estate prices. And I was like, wow, that's insane. Like I didn't even know that existed, because I'm from the Bay Area, California, where houses are over $1 million.
Yeah, for nothing.
For nothing. And that's like a basic level house. And so to me, I was mind blown that you could buy something even for like 50, 60 grand at the time. And so when I got serious, that was in November of 2019. And in 2020, when I got serious about actually investing in real estate, I just thought about like, I met one investor who was a local broker who I was working with in Cincinnati. And he had mentioned he owned a couple rental properties. So when I got really serious about investing, I reached back out to him and said, hey, can you just like walk me around the market? Can you tell me where to invest? Where are the good neighborhoods? Where are the bad neighborhoods? Do you have an agent I can talk to? And he jumped on a 1-hour Zoom call with me and said, like, generally, here are 4 zip codes that you want to focus on. He connected me with an agent. And then I just found, I was just on Zillow, analyzing deals, like watching YouTube videos, figuring out how to account for like CapEx and vacancy and like what kind of calculators to use. And so, the first property I found on Zillow, I had an agent, but I sent it to my agent and said, this property just fell out of contract. I'm interested in it. Can we submit an offer? And it was only the second offer I had ever submitted, and it got accepted. which I was actually really surprised about because this is 2020, so everyone was telling me like, oh, it's going to be so hard. You're going to get beaten all cash, no contingencies.
Right.
And I was conventional financing, contingencies, below ask, like first time home buyer type of thing. So when it got accepted, I was like, oh, I guess I got to figure everything out because I didn't even have like a pre-approval letter yet. Like I don't even know how they accepted my offer. Like now I think about it and I was like, I can't believe I submitted an offer without a pre-approval and it got accepted. But I financed it with like 20% down at the time. It was like $25,000 that I saved up from working. And I bought it without looking at it. I remember my agent kind of said to me, like, I don't really feel like this is a good first investment property. And I was like, I think it is. And so I sent my friend who I had met, the friend who I had asked to tour me around the market. And I said, can you just walk through? And if you were me, would you buy it? And he walked through and he said, like, if I were you, I would buy it. And I did buy it because of that, like, affirmative yes from him. And ended up being a really good property. It cash flows like $600 per month. But it was $100,000. It's a great return. It's doubled in its value in the past 3 years. And I would buy that house again today if I could.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess first realizing the price point was accessible was the one thing that helped. Like you realized you could get a property and it's not disgusting, right? I mean, like people are going to live in it. It's going to pay you money. I guess you just don't know. You live in you live close to one of the highest valued areas. And that's what I think, West Coast or Bay Area investors are always thinking, how can I do this? You go out of state. So was that always just going to be a straight up investment property, or is it a single family, or was it a multi?
It's a single family, straight up investment property, 20% down. I did maybe $15,000 of renovations. I was dumb and flew out there and tried to paint the property myself. And like, I have no construction background. And I remember I was working my full-time job. We had no internet inside the house. And so I literally would wake up because we were East Coast time and I worked in Pacific time. So I'd wake up at 7 or 8, like paint the house for a few hours, run down to Starbucks, take like a couple conference calls, run back to the house, try to paint some cabinets, put them on the wall, run back to Starbucks. And I remember that I hired a contractor at the end because I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And it kind of looks terrible. And he was like, we're just going to do the whole thing over again. And I was like, wow, 4 weeks of my life wasted. And so it was a cosmetic renovation. It wasn't anything crazy, like paint, flooring, couple finishes, fixtures, that type of thing. And then I ended up actually burning the property. During that time in 2020, 2021, values were kind of going up so quickly. Yeah. Like you could almost make no mistakes because the values would just go up just as fast. And so I bought it for 100. I put in like 15 or so and then refinanced at 155 and got the majority of my money back 6 months later.
Yeah, right. Because you had 20 in on it. So yeah, that's awesome. Did that, getting to that point and then doing the refinance part, did that open your mind up to, wait, I think I can do a lot of this? Because now you took your money out, it's like, well, I can just do it again. Yeah,
but I bought 4 other doors before I refinanced. So
okay.
I didn't use that money. So after the first property, I actually did not really know about the BRRRR strategy. I kind of did. I didn't intend for this to be a BRRRR. I was just going to keep the property and keep all my money in. And then a month later, I was like, well, that was fun. It rented. It makes great cash flow. The pandemic's still happening. This point was like August or September, and we all thought it was going to last 2 weeks, but it lasted a year, like 2 years. And so I was like, oh, I'm out of money. I guess I can't buy another property. And so I started exploring some other ways to invest in real estate that didn't really involve like conventional financing. And so at that point, my mom had reached out to me, and like the background of my family is like, I don't come from a family that has much money. I would never have asked my mom for money at any point, but she had watched me on Instagram and was like, hey, honey, like I want to invest in your next deal. And I'm like, oh, you could do that? Like, I didn't even know that. I guess you could do that. How do you do that? And so I started reading books like Matt Faircloth's Raising Private Capital and figuring out like how to structure different loans and like how I could use it. And I bought my second property a couple months later. It was a triplex that needed some small level of renovation, but it was rented, so we gradually renovated it.
Yeah.
And I bought that property using private money. And then the third property, I again at this point was like, I'm broke again. Like, how am I supposed to buy another property? Like, I already used up all my private money. Don't even know what it's called, but like my mom helped. Like, I gave her a return for it. And so I ended up finding a partner, and he ended up funding a hard money loan for my first flip. And so I think like all of those, it wasn't like a linear path of I had this giant moment and like now I can use other people's money, or like I could use the BRRRR strategy forever. I was really experimenting with other ways of financing properties, and between, partnerships, private money, hard money. And then then after that, a month later, I refinanced that property and I'm like, oh, I got my money back. And so through that, we kind of used a combination of the BRRRR strategy, commercial financing, private money to buy like 25 units in the first year.
Yeah. I mean, when you were at that section where you had the triplex and then the two other ones, did you start to think, wait, I can do this full time? Like when did the light bulb go off that you could travel whenever you wanted to and be that financially free person? How long into the journey were you when you really knew this was it?
So I bought only value add properties because with using private money and short-term, like hard money loans, you have to, or you're going to have to sink money in it. And I just didn't have any money to sink in there. And so it's always a period of stabilizing properties. And it's not like from day one, you're cash flowing. It's you got to finish the whole cycle and then rent it out. And then you have some cash flow. But by the time you've refinanced it, you've kind of compressed your cash flow because you now have a bigger mortgage. And so it wasn't like, so I quit my job 15 months after I bought my first rental property, which was pretty fast. I had around 25 units, but only half of them were rented out. And there was a couple flips in there. There was rental, like long-term rental properties in there, but it covered my base living expenses, which were really minimal. So we're talking like $1,000 of rent. I had a paid off car. Like I was willing to eat ramen noodles. Like that was fine. And so I wouldn't say I had like infinite money to travel and I had hit my like ultimate financial freedom cash flow goal. But when I looked at the potential of real estate investing, how much we made per flip, which we were making like $25,000 per flip, as well as additional cash flow. And I had at that time started coaching real estate as well. I was like, I think that the potential, if I focused 100% of my time, is more here. And I know that I can at least cover my very minimal living expenses. And so I'm going to take a leap and see what happens when I can dedicate 100% of my time into this instead of splitting my time half into brokerage and half into real estate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you really stayed with the dedicated path. So instead of having like the light bulb moment that a lot of people have, like you said, you just kept going from one to the next and figuring out like, okay, well, now I'm out of money. I need to get money. But I think a lot of people just quit. They think like, oh, well, I don't have money, so I can't get a deal. And there was something about the drive that you had to say, well, there's going to be a way. And then when you found that there's one way, it's like, well, maybe there's more ways to do this. What do you think just let you do that? Was it the will to get farther, or you really started to be obsessed with the transition of real estate?
It's a game. I'm a competitive person. And I think that, like, again, in my community, you get rewarded for scaling. Like you get rewarded for buying properties. Like nothing felt better than posting on my Instagram that I was under contract for another property. And that became like my reward system for myself. And it built like almost like clout with my new community. And I think that's honestly like what drove me to scale so much is seeing what was possible from other people and feeling encouraged and rewarded for continuing to figure out problems, to problem solve, to share what I learned. And it just became like, I don't want to say an addiction because it's a good addiction. It's a good addiction. It's a helpful one.
Yeah.
but it was like a game. It was a really fun, like, how can I figure out how to do this faster? And there's so many ways every problem is not truly a problem. There's so many ways to find deals. There's so many ways to find money. Really, you're just another conversation away from figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I think with each property, I learned something new, and I was able to kind of add to my tool belt of how do I solve this problem next? And you just get really smart really fast. And I think that's a really fun part about real estate is your learning curve is so high in the beginning. And I loved learning. I love growing. And I was like addicted to that learning curve and learning something new from every property. It was really fun.
Yeah, and I think your curve goes up much higher than others because like we were talking about before, there's people who are doers and there's people who like, I really want to do it, but I don't actually want to do the work. You were doing the work, so your curve gets taller and taller as you go because you keep learning more. Compound interest on it just keeps going, just like your rental income at the time. Hey, it's Jonathan. This is just a brief interlude to talk to you about Deal Machine. Listen, I've used Deal Machine and I was crushing it with my Concerned Citizen postcard on Deal Machine. You can look that video up on my YouTube and find out how I did it. It works. Deal Machine works. I've had David Lecko, the CEO, on the podcast. So if you want a free trial of Deal Machine, the elite Driving for Dollars app, and I'm telling you, it works if you use it correctly. You can go to my link at bit.ly/Zen Deal Machine. Now, bit.ly is bit.ly/Zen Deal Machine. It's free and you'll be up and running in 2 minutes, and then you can figure out if you want to keep it. Let's get back to the show. So when you got into coaching and helping other people, did that also kind of like fill you up to be able to be at the age you're at and to deliver this value to other people, not just on social, but direct one-to-one like that?
Yeah, it all came very organically. I never wanted to be a coach, never really set out to be. I don't even like to call myself an influencer. I like to call myself an educator.
Yeah.
But the more that you do, the more that people ask you how to do. And I think that I found another skill that I didn't even realize I had, which was like structuring education that actually helps people take action. And I think that's what a lot of maybe programs are missing is like they give you all of the information, but they don't understand the psychology of what actually makes you do the work. And so I think that that's where I found I love supporting people who take action, and I love giving them the framework that they need in order to feel confident to take action. And I think that it's very powerful to, like, I've talked to past students, and it literally changes lives. You know, it changes your whole retirement path. It changes everything. It gives you optionality. It gives you security in your finances. It allows you to take a year off if you really need to. If someone gets sick, like you're all good. All your bills are covered. And I think that that's like, it's more than just being able to teach real estate. I really truly believe it changes lives. And I think that's really cool that knowledge can change lives. And I think it's a side benefit to doing it myself, as being able to give that knowledge to other people too.
Yeah, I think the delivery of that information and then, like you said, enabling them to take action is so empowering because, you know, people come from all different backgrounds. Like you said, you didn't come from a background where you thought, hey, I can just be a real estate investor and have all the money to do that because people think you need to have, you know, a trust fund to do it. But for someone just at any age to really understand that, wait, I can do this by myself. It's great if I have a partner, if I meet someone or I have kids, but like I can do this journey by myself. I can create a stream of income that's either in addition to the job that I have or is on its own, really can change, like you said, the landscape of how they look at the rest of their life, because now it doesn't look like a linear path where I'm going to work 9 to 5, I'm going to go to my job like a lot of us thought we were supposed to do. But then it opens up and then all sorts of different things can be an option, just like they have been for you. You didn't plan on being a coach, but here people were asking for your help. And then the more you give, the more that comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of the programs that you've built off of what you were originally doing, tell us about those. I see Out of State Investor Academy, I know you have that, but I know you have a lot of things going on. So tell us the things that you've created that help other people, and who's looking for those, and who are you finding to help? Because I know it's not just, it's really everybody's interested in investing now, and you have a bunch of different things that you're helping people accomplish along the way.
Yeah. So when I first started coaching way back in 2020, and I did like more one-on-one coaching, helping people, like small group coaching. But what I really felt like I was missing was a framework, like a framework that people could follow to consistently take action. So that's when I launched my first course in 2021, which was like a comprehensive roadmap to buying your first rental property. And then same with I feel the same way about education as I do with real estate. I love the learning curve. I love improving, and I love understanding what people need. And so with that course, everyone was then asking for a community. I want to be connected with people who are doing the same thing as me. I want the same community that you talk about. Like you have those people pushing you and motivating you and saying, good job, pat on the back for taking a risk. Like I want that community, and I'm not getting that in your course because I'm not connected with anybody. At the same time, I want someone to answer my questions when I have questions, and like I want a referral network. I need an agent. How do I ask you for an agent? And so through exploring all of those questions, I launched Out of State Investor Academy last year in September. And that is really my main product right now. We bundled up all of our courses, whether it be raising private money or that original course, Rentals for Rookies, and we put it inside almost like a giant masterclass library with additional support for if you have questions. We have live calls multiple times per week, really all of the additional support that someone would need while taking a course, and giving them those connections with hundreds of other investors who are on the exact same path as them.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. You were talking about community, and I've always said that you could read all the books, you can listen to the podcast, you can get a ton of information, but until you develop a community, you won't get the confidence, because there's just something you can't get that go do it from a book, because you won't know if you're doing the right thing. You need to see just one person sometimes who just wants to do or has just done what you did. And then again, like you said, you build a community, and then you can see, wait, there's 6 people who are all my age. They just all did deals. Then you realize, hey, I can do it. You manufactured it yourself early on, but now you can relay to these other people and get them in groups. I think that's so important. Have you seen, JV deals and partnerships working just from inside your community? I think that's one of the most amazing things about these communities.
Yeah, no, I think there's partnerships that have been created. People have sent other people deals that they have gone under contract on. I think a big one is people have shared their teams in different markets. And so a lot of times, like when I had a friend who I knew in Cincinnati, people are like, well, how do I find that friend? Like, do I just randomly DM people and hope that they want to help me? And usually that's not going to happen, because if you randomly DM someone, what is their incentive to help you? There is no community connection there.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where, when you're bought into this program, you've shown that you are serious, and people are much more willing to then give you recommendations for agents. Like we have a list of over 150 referrals in different markets, whether that be agents, contractors, lenders, CPAs, attorneys, and they're all vetted referrals from people in the community who have worked with them before, which is huge. And it's a huge advantage when you're able to kind of take a shortcut in picking your market and building your team. Well, what if someone could just hand you their entire team and you could close on a property in the next 30 days? And that's kind of what we're trying to solve for, is not everyone is going to have the time or the drive or the desire to create an Instagram presence that creates a community. I happen to love it. Like I just loved making Canva graphics. And at the height, I was spending like 20 hours per week DMing people. No joke. And at the time I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, 20 hours per week. But I truly loved it. Not everyone is going to have that time. And we're probably, hopefully not going to be in a pandemic where anybody has that kind of time to DM people. And so why not just create a better way where you can shortcut all of those decisions and find a community that you can just join? And it doesn't have to be mine. There's lots of them out there for different reasons. There's Pace Morby's Sub 2. There's Bigger Pockets Pro. There's like creative financing things. Like there's midterm rental ones. But I think it speeds up the journey when you're able to have more frames of reference and community of people to inspire you, and also to leverage other people's networks to make decisions so much faster.
Yeah, I think you're helping to remove roadblocks, whether they be real roadblocks, financial or locational, or the perceived self-awareness roadblocks that a lot of people, I can't. And then you're like, you can, because here's the three people, them, you're friends with them, they're in your community, they're doing it. And those are the things that I think people need, because I think ego can get in a lot of ways, and it can go both ways because, scarcity mentality is real. A lot of people just never thought they could do that. So they're trying to, keep what they have instead of grow what they have. But then you're opening it up to all these other options. And I'm sure from your community, because most of them that are doing really well are the same. It's everybody from all backgrounds, all different types of people, all focused on the same goal. And that means you're always going to find somebody, but also sometimes it's cool to see somebody completely opposite of you who's doing the same thing that you want to do. And then that becomes the commonality. And the relationships that people build inside these communities, as you know, and I know just from being around all these investors, it's not just JVs and deals. They become real lifelong friendships that are always the part of deals. Have you found that in your journey just over 3-4 years that you've increased the friendships as well? Because you figure out who's real on social media, you meet them eventually, and then those are the people that help take you to the next level, even for someone who's getting to levels very quickly like you. Have you found that along the way?
Yeah, all my best friends right now, besides one, they're all from social media. Only one is from college still. But I used to actually have a really hard time making friends. I just always felt like I was stuck in college, but I was like a 35-year-old who just did not share the same priorities as anybody else. And same in my brokerage career. I started as a broker when I was 19, so I was really young. And everybody was
commercial too. And commercial is it's even more male friendly and older friendly.
Oh yeah, average age in my office was 55. I think I was one of 3 women. It was in an office of 100.
Right.
But I loved it. I loved the job. But I didn't fit in. I wasn't. All I wanted was girlfriends to go hang out with, and I'm like, but none of the girlfriends online or who I meet care about the same things that I do. So where am I supposed to find them? And I think that's where Instagram came in. A lot of my really, really good friends came from my first year online on Instagram. And I attract and am attracted to people who are also scaling, growing, and motivated to do something bigger, do something more. And so over the years, I watched people online and be like, oh, she's cool. I want to be her friend. Yeah. And then we end up meeting up. I've met people at mastermind trips. I've flown all over the country to be with my friends, because the reality is there's probably more people online that you'd get along with than in your immediate 10-minute circle. And so I think I've found a lot of meaningful friendships and relationships just by watching other people's journey and being very intentional about reaching out and flying out and cultivating friendships with people who are doing the same thing as me.
Yeah, and I think I like what you said before, because I never looked at you and thought oh, you were an influencer. I do think educator suits better. But when you're good at social media, you know who else is doing it for the right reasons as well. You're very savvy on social media. So when you're looking at someone and you think they're cool, you can look at their content and know, look, they're not even, there's no classes in here. Or if there's a class, it's really good. They've built up the rep to offer the class, as opposed to there's a lot of garbage on social media. There's definitely a lot with investors that look shiny and doesn't really deliver. Is that something that's really helped you, the navigation of social media? Because I really do think it's important. I think it's important for all businesses, but you've helped, you've grown business through there, but also, like you said, you're able to look and see who's real, who's not, just because of your knowledge about it.
Yeah, I don't think social media is for everybody, to be honest. It's kind of like real estate investing. There are some people who will tell you everybody needs to get on social media. But if you're not actually wanting to do it, it's just going to be about same as real estate. If you don't really want to do it, you're not going to do it. It's not going to be successful. And so very similarly, if you say that you want to post on social media and then you don't actually do it, or you post a bunch of crap and you're not dedicated to getting better at it, then you're probably not going to attract the people that you want to attract. I think that there's two levels to Instagram. There's a general presence, which I think could be helpful for anybody. And I'm not talking 10,000, I'm talking like 1,000. And it's still a 1,000 followers. Like, it's a great place to network with people, to reach out to people. You just have to be very intentional with what your goal is on Instagram. Like, you got to create some sort of content so people don't think you're just a ghost follower. Like, you're just stalking people, you're not actually providing any value. But if you can provide some amount of value, I think people that you reach out to recognize that you're providing value and they want to connect with you. Maybe you want to be very intentional about finding a partner on Instagram, or you want to find private money lenders. And I've had people, students, like raise over $500,000 with like less than 2,000 followers. And it's because they are very intentional with creating relationships with their following. Whether or not you get to 100,000 followers, like, you really need to love it if you're going to do that. And it's not just like, we're just going to post to sell. Like, I think people can sense that. Like, they want to know you're a real person. They want to see you show up. I spend a lot of time on social media and kind of curating and crafting strategy, but that comes from a place of love and not out of a place of like, I want something out of these people. I don't think that everyone should do it, unless you really want to do it. And then when you do it, to be very intentional about what the purpose is. And the purpose should not just be, I want to sell a course. The purpose at first should be like, I want to lead with value. I want to teach people. And in the teaching, I want to also generate relationships. I want to find partners. I want to find private money lenders and something like that.
Yeah. I mean, in this space, the kind of real estate investing and social media where that meets, the people who do the best, not the people with the most followers, the people who do the best and have the best relationships are all the most genuine. Because you're going through the journey with them. And like, for somebody like you, they can scroll all the way back and see, if it's still there, like, hey, what happened in the beginning? And I think that's really important for others to see who want to do the deep dive and see, oh, wait, can I really do this? Maybe they're scared to get to the community now, but because you have so much content, they can go back on the journey and see it without doing it. And then eventually say, okay, now I've learned enough to join the community. Because I would suppose now a lot of people who join knew of you, but you didn't know of them. But that's what's so cool about it. Someone could be following him for 2 years, and then they just hop into the class and they're like, they know everything about you. They know your journey. So they're kind of ahead of the curve. Whereas just a course that is out there and people sign up, they're just starting from scratch.
Yeah. And I'm very active in there. And I think the people who are very active in the community as well, like, we become friends. Like, again, if you want to stand out in the crowd, actually do something and show up. Like, it's not that hard to stand out. There's only 1% of people, like the people who have their Zoom cameras on. I know you by name. I know what you do. Exactly. And I want to help you. And so if you are in any community, don't waste it. Don't not show up live. Don't not ask questions. Don't not provide value. There's very few people who do those things. And when you do those things, you will be noticed. And the people at the top will want to help you. So I think it's a really easy way I think leading with value is a really easy way to get noticed and to move up in life really quickly. It's the same thing. I still do it for the same reason.
Yeah. And like you said, showing up is really the first part. And for what a lot of us do, that means being on camera, because it means you're there. The more you show up, the more people perceive that you're invested. And then you start talking. Maybe it takes a while to get comfortable, but it's much better to get comfortable on camera so people know you. And then it's much easier to say, oh, wait, they've been here. That's somebody, if you have to choose from a list of 100 people, and like you said, there's 20 who are always on the front page with the cameras on, that's who you know. You don't know the other people. Maybe you've seen them in a Facebook group, but you have no connection to them. They're just kind of lurkers, like social media. I think that's a really important point for a lot of new investors, because they're going to take courses that are going to exist online, and you'll only get the most out of them if you're on camera and participating when you get comfortable.
And I'll tell you a story. So I used to have this other mastermind a year and a half ago, and it was all around scaling. And I had a couple partners who led that group, but we had maybe 100 people, and we were teaching them how to scale your portfolio through a variety of different methods. But there was one couple who just like was always there, always asking questions, always had their cameras on, really stood out. Like, I wanted to be their friend. And so like fast forward and it's like I wanted to reach out with them. So I stayed in contact. And then a year and a half later, there was a boutique hotel that came up, and I happened to really be interested in boutique hotel investing.
Wait, are you talking about Deanna and Josh?
Oh my gosh, do you know them?
I just had them. They're going to be 2 episodes before you.
Oh, I love that. So it was
Yeah.
them. I mean, it was them, and they showed up, and then I remembered, and I'm like, I want to be in a partnership with people who show up and do what they say that they're going to do and are really active and are really enthusiastic. And I have requests to partner more than once a day, probably 10 times a day in my DMs. But what really stands out is them showing up. And I think that's, I mean, not to say like I'm at some higher level. It's just that it's not. But I think that if you want to stand out in any circumstance, like that's just an example of like that is a partnership that could grow into a multi-7-figure business. And I'm really excited to be doing it with someone who I really enjoy working with. And if it was not for that community, I wouldn't have met them.
Yeah, and you also wouldn't have got to know them well enough to know that their skill set and your skill set can match on those type of projects. Because we talked about it. It's 2 episodes before this, but we talked a lot about the boutique hotel. So I'm not going to go through how that deal all went with you, but that's a story that they're going to hear now in 2 parts. But that's really important. And I think that right now we're giving some real advice that's a little bit aside from investing, but it's how you can build relationships, which is what real estate investing is all about. The numbers are great, but all of your deals, your best deals over the long term are all going to come from relationships, your best partners, JVs, these type of partnerships that you're saying. And I think it is really important to encourage people to show up. I always say, just find your first meetup. I mean, there's a lot of people that we both know who started a meetup and then it becomes a thing. Then the meetup is the thing and they're all over. But those are the first steps that people need to just get encouraged to take, because we won't know of them before. They're kind of a little bit scared and they just have to find that one thing, whether it be an online group, bigger pockets, something that will get them out. But eventually you have to get out to the other people to make it happen. These are really good pieces of advice. So over your 49 units, as we start to wrap up, are those all in Cincinnati, or have now you branched out and you're investing in all different places, depending on where you like and where you've been?
So all of those are between Cincinnati, Ohio, and Augusta, Georgia. And there's a handful of, I don't know, maybe 10 or so. And it's comprised of long-term rentals, 5 midterm rentals, and there's maybe 10 or so flips in there that I stopped trying to count because it seems like every week we're going up or down. And so I flip primarily in Augusta, Georgia. It's just an easier market to flip in, and we have a good construction crew and a partner out there. And then in Cincinnati, I have 20, I don't know, 30, something like that are mixtures of long-term rentals and midterm rentals. Now really focused on buying a fun asset. We do a lot of boring real estate, which is the base of real estate. It's like my family asked me to go see my properties, and I'm like, you don't want to go see my properties. Like, they're really boring. And he's still like, can we stay in them? And I'm like, no, there's tenants that live in them. Like, this is not a hotel. And so I think that what my goal was in the beginning was to build a really steady base of cash flow that was really boring and unexciting, but let's copy paste this over and over and over again so that we can get to a place that there's an amount of cash flow that is comfortable. And then let's go do some really fun projects. And looking forward, like, really fun projects to me are more experiential hospitality. I've always been interested in it, but like honestly kind of terrified of it because it's a new asset class. It's high risk, but it's high return. And I think that having that level of cash flow helps you take a bigger risk without needing for it to be extremely successful from day one. And then also developing relationships with a partnership, Josh and Deanna, who are skilled and excited in different areas of operating a boutique hotel.
Yeah. I find myself interested in some odd assets as well. I have this obsession with redoing, a high school or middle school or something, because I see someone like Jesse Wigg do it. I'm like, that just looks cool. You have your own basketball court, you have fields. I mean, that just looks cool. But I think the more you get into it, and like you said, the more you build the runway of income from these properties, the more it gives you a little bit more freedom to try something with educated risk, which really isn't very risky given where you've been for the last 3 years and how far you've gotten. That risk is built on what you've learned and who you've partnered with. So it's very, very modified risk, I think. Is that what you're looking to do more in the future? Is this more interesting, and then still collect more of the boring ones, because that's what makes the money?
Yeah. So probably we'll buy, I don't know, 8, 9-ish units, boring units, mostly probably in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a really great midterm rental market. And so it's a, mix of good appreciation, good cash flow, great long-term rental market as well, still relatively more affordable properties. So I think I'll always do that because I can do that. And it's
Yeah.
really it's not a big stretch of time to do that. It's kind of a copy paste to have the good crews out there, have a good property manager. And so we just, repeat it over and over again. But I think a lot of time and energy will be focused on more of those fun properties that I would love to work on, whether that's like an event space in a boutique hotel. I think what's interesting is that a lot of my skills in marketing, social media, branding, design, from building my personal brand really coincide with a lot of what is necessary to build a boutique hotel brand. And so I think it's really exciting that we've kind of come full circle and we've combined two things that I'm really excited about, both real estate and that marketing aspect. And I'm able to work on those aspects of real estate too.
Yeah, and you've built up such a following over the years that you have already built-in clients for these things, because it's like they followed your journey, but now you do have a hospitality end, which I think is always for short-term and mid-term. People can see it more for short-term in terms of like people just saying, hey, I want to go stay at that property. But boutique hotel and what you guys were planning, and I'm sure you'll find in another location, is perfect for people to say like, hey, well, we want to go to Soli's property. Like I saw that they did that with Yana and Josh. Like that's a thing. And you've built up the reputation where people can comfortably go and already know it's going to be a good stay. I mean, and
that's the goal.
Yeah, no, I think you've already done it. Now it's just finding the property that doesn't, that where the regulations don't restrict what you guys were going to do there.
Yeah, we have a spreadsheet of like 100 more properties that we're going to call on. So we have a really good team, a really good GP team, a lot of really good experience and a lot of motivation to find the right property, and very much a lot of alignment on like the brand that we want to build and the type and quality of experience that we want to offer. And I think it's a really special next. It's almost like we're turning the chapter a little bit.
Yeah,
and I've been waiting for this moment for 3.5, almost 4 years now, of having the honor of working on fun properties, because I haven't really allowed myself to do that because we were so focused on building that base. And I think a lot of people get really excited and want to do really big projects at first. But I think that it's almost better. I had this argument with David Green on Bigger Pockets, but his was just do a bigger property and you'll make more money on one. And I was like, well, the reality is that it's better for people to learn on smaller properties, make your mistakes and do 10 reps and then take a bigger property and build your vision. But build that steady base of cash flow. Make your mistakes on $100,000 properties. Don't make your mistake on $1 million property, because that could be plus or minus $200,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, I think building the foundation is smart. And even for people who want to flip right away, they have to understand that's difficult if you don't understand building the team and contractors and how everything works. JV it, do it with someone else who knows, find partners so that you're always limiting your risk, like you said. And then when you get out there, you have 50 units, then it's not, like we were just saying, it's not a risk to go out and do this because you have the partners, you have the knowledge, and you kind of want to do it. Now it's something that's passion that also can make money. I think it's really exciting. And I think that asset class is really exciting. It's definitely exploded with short-term, mid-term, and how things happen. And then all of the nonsense about, short-term being done. It is building for boutique hotels with that extra hospitality, because I haven't stayed at a hotel in 20 years. I stay at Airbnbs, and that's the boutique hotel part, is that it's a conglomeration of smaller units that are kind of all in one where they can have what they want. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Me too.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Soli, I already know this. The best place to find you is on Instagram for sure, and that's lattes.and.leases, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. And so when you started that, you kept it because sometimes they'll see it. Well, you have to keep it now. That's been your handle ever since the beginning.
It's my identity. I've considered changing it, but for now, it is what it is. And I didn't think anyone but my mom would follow me. So now I have a lot of followers and they don't even know my real name. So for now, that is my brand.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure. Are there any other better places for people to get in touch with you? I know if they find you on Instagram, they can go into the Linktree portion where the links are and find Out of State Investor Academy and all of the other things that you're working on.
Yeah, no, that's the best place. And I also have a free course if you're looking to get started investing out of state. There's just it's free. You don't need to buy anything, but it'll just send you like 5 steps right to your inbox. And it's super detailed about finding a market, building a team, getting your finances in order. So I found that a lot of people have found that really helpful, and thousands of people have taken it. So that's a great resource for people on the show.
Awesome. And that is, I'll link to it. I'll pull it out of the link. But if you go onto Soli's Instagram, click on where the links are, it will be in there. We'll link to all of those in the show notes. Soli, it was great to finally connect with you. And I'm sure I will see you in Cancun at BP 2024.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks so much. That was Soli Cayetano. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with me, Jonathan Green. And I just want to remind you, and this is always an uncomfortable part, I don't want you to think that I'm begging for you to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do for the podcast, leave a 5-star review. But if you like the podcast and you think it adds value in the real estate investing sphere, then just do me a personal favor. Like the podcast, follow it, share it when you can with your friends, and be so kind as to write a 5-star review if you believe it deserves a 5-star review up against what else is out there. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you keep listening.